Welcome to Bucks on the Bookshelf with your host, Steve the Bookman Eisenstein. Steve the Bookman Eisenstein has been involved in buying, selling, and appraisals of rare books since 1968. This show has been designed with making money for the listeners in mind. More people know the value of coins, stamps, objects of art, and collectibles they do not own than the values of the books in their home library shelves. Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Welcome back, my fellow rare bookians. Wow, Edie, you did a phenomenal job just now. I love you, I love you, I love you. What can I tell you? Okay, so we just got a hell of a lot more information about these particular medallions and things. So let me give you a catalog read of what the full set looks like, and then I found broken volumes being sold at different prices depending on what medallions are in there and what they represent. Here's the whole story on it. Paoletti Imprante, 8 volumes, a collection of over 820, actually 823, presented in 8 vellum-bound, double-sided Fawkes book boxes. Rome, mid-19th century, 8 volumes, 823 white plaster cast medallions, each bordered with gilt paper, manuscript numbers added in ink, generally between 1.5 and 5 centimeters in diameter, some larger, arranged and mounted in double-recessed, double-sided Fawkes books lined with red paper. There's a manuscript list of contents, not entirely corresponding to the content. Funny, we all made mistakes even back then. In brown ink to front and rear paste downs of each volumes. In original matching full vellum binding, gilt spines with 2 labels lettered Paoletti and Imprante. That's what mine has. And then there's 2 subtitles, both of mine are the same, Opere Antici or Imprante Opere Moderne. With the volume number. Box, their condition. Actually, I think mine's in a little better condition overall. Box size, 34 by 22 centimeters, whatever that is, huh? A few in their set, okay, a few medallions detached from backing, 3 with visible traces of crack. I hope they weren't smoking it back then, and 1 broken. Some of the bindings are partially dusted. Some labels are rubbed with losses to the extremities. Front panel, and this is confusing. Front panel of volume 16, discolored, spine somewhat rubbed, overall in fine condition, generally a well-preserved collection. There's a contradiction there, 16 or 8. Okay, now here's where it really gets contradictory. An 8 volume collection of 19th century plaster impressions of intaglios and other engraved gems and miniature copies of ancient and latest sculptures and monuments in matching original bindings manufactured by the Paoletti firm. So some of them are boring, depending on what you like in art, and some of them are more interesting. It's a fine collection of mid-19th century plaster medallions, intaglios, cameos, known in Italian as Imprante, manufactured by the Paoletti family, Bartolomeo Paoletti, 1757 to 1834, and his son Pietro, 01 to 47, short life. In Rome, these souvenirs, I love this, these souvenirs became highly popular among aristocratic and fashionable travelers on the Grand Tour. Oh, so many books are written about the Grand Tour. During the early part of the 19th century, especially from England. Such distinguished figures such as Goethe, Catherine the Great, Ferdinand III, and others were clients of the Paoletti firm. I don't know a lot about ceramics, but I can't say I ever heard of a Paoletti ceramic. I'm sure people are laughing at me for saying that. It doesn't mean anything. I just, I've seen a diverse number of porcelains, ceramics. I haven't seen one of these. Like a miniature museum of the history of art, these carefully arranged and mounted plaster impressions show mythological or classical scenes, portraits of Greek and Roman gods, emperors, warriors, philosophers, artists, and writers. Many of the intaglios are life-size copies of ancient gems, cameos, coins, and medals. Others are miniature representations of classic or latest sculptures and portraits. 4 of our volumes cover antique themes, and the other 4 are dedicated to modern art. Okay, so I'm telling myself now, mine are dedicated more from what I can see so far to antique themes than modern art. The antique section comprises a volume titled Impronte and Stucco. Okay, I don't have that. Cavat Dali Gemi Antici. I'm not even going to try Antici, and contains 160. Oh, your computer just crapped out on me, Edie. Here, you got to plug it in. I was almost done. Um, and it contained 116 portraits. Okay, so as I was looking at that, there are other listings. Just do a straight Google search on Paoletti, and you'll come up with the same things that I did. I didn't have a chance to go through it in detail. I saw one person was selling one volume for $800. I have seen a couple of people, I didn't see the prices though, where they took them, they labeled what they were, but they mounted them in their own, velour and whatever to make them stand out. So you really can't count those when you compare you know. So, to add on to this, this is what we do every time we do an appraisal, and that's why, you really need to understand how to approach an appraisal, what has to be in it, and so on. And sometimes it could be fun, sometimes it could be tedious, it could be tedious and fun. Hopefully, at the end, it's financially rewarding. So where they were talking at $800 a volume for whatever it was, I didn't see exactly which one. Certain volumes, because here's another food for thought, an abstract thought. Some of the volumes have more than others. Some of the volumes have larger and smaller ones. Therefore, it's not like each individual volume, if you have a loose volume, has a set price. When I said under 5 grand, and based on what I've seen, I think I was fairly intuitive on, the pricing, but it's definitely not the final word in pricing as, I need to really spend another hour or two on this to come up with it. So that's the nitty gritty. That was a fun book. Um, let's see, we got about, oh, okay, I don't need that right now. What I am going to do for about 2 seconds, normally I could get away with it on the radio, is I got to move away for a second and get some other stuff since we're doing camera. Let me get interesting. I'll be right back.
Meanwhile, as Steve moves around the studio looking for what he's looking for, I'm filling in. Hang in there, Steve. We can't have any dead air time. Steve, we can't have any dead air time, so I'm filling in for you.
Oh, well,
I'm
keep
describing
going.
your movements around your home studio.
I'm getting bored. You want to take over? No, I'm only joking.
Carry on. I've done the show with you so long, I think I could, but
You
anyway.
could. Oh, no, no, no. I don't even think about that. You could. You could.
No, no, no. But anyway, back to Steve.
Back to Steve. Okay. Thank you, Steve. Hold on. Let me just wet the whistle, as they used to say. Okay. Let's start out and talk about something with a visual. Okay. This is the book that we're going to talk about right now. Dust jacket, you can see that there's a major chip in the spine. The back looks pretty nice.
Steve,
So
hold that book up at an angle. So there you go, because we're
the
getting glare
glare.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
Inside the saddle with Gomez. There you
you
go.
got it. Okay. So what is it about this book? Okay. First of all, it was published, this is a reprint. It was published initially in 1898. This is the 1909 edition. And the other thing that's tells you it's a reprint is the publishing company. That's Hearst and Company Publishers. Okay. But what makes this book a little more significant is the very fact that this book has the dust jacket from 1902. The subject matter is Spanish-American War. Um, Another little interesting factor about this one, there's a signature that we need to investigate, although we already did, I take that back. And there's a library book plate, not ex-library, a personal home, person's book plate. Spanish-American War, early book in a dust jacket. What's the book worth? We've got a 150 price on it. That's the retail price. My instructions are not to necessarily maximize, but for my own edification, I put my retail price in it. When I list that book later, we're probably going to start around $70, $75. I don't want to be the highest price. I don't want to be the lowest price based on crappy condition, but based on the condition of this book. If somebody has the book, let's say in equal condition for $80, I would price mine at 60. Why? Rarer than the rare book is sometimes the buyer for it. We're not looking to maximize on this. There's such a volume of books that we just want to turn things over. I probably have 10 large boxes of books based on the Spanish-American War. Um, I've talked to you about the Philippines. We didn't get to those yet. Oh, yeah. Wait, yeah. And the naval militia. I'm sorry. Okay. This is another one. Okay. Let me take the glare off. Hold on a second. Okay, you always want to put your stuff in plastic, especially when it's fragile like this. What makes this, besides the fact that it's survived, it's fragile, it wasn't made to last. Let me see, there's a lot of maps and charts in this. This is the report of the captain of the Naval Militia of New York to the adjutant general about the war with Spain in 1898. We looked this up. We found out how many copies are available, so on and so forth. A lot of copies have been rebound. This is more desirable because it's in the original wrappers. Original wrappers is always more desirable. It's really funny. Years ago, I haven't mentioned his name in a long time, and he's one of the most phenomenal book dealers in the world, Dan Boone. We did a remote broadcast from the Rocky Mountain Book Fair very early in the show, like the second or third year. And there was a little kid on. I said, are there any kids there? We'd love to talk to kids at the fair. So they put a kid in. I think it was a shill. I said, what kind of books do you collect? And he said, I like Charles Dickens. And I said, okay. Do you like your Charles Dickens in parts? Or do you like your Charles Dickens in hardbound first? He said, I like mine in parts. Obviously, we all do. It's the same thing here. You want something in the original format. It's always going to be worth more in the original format. Okay. Where'd the other one go? Okay. This is the cruise of the Eagle. Okay. Now, Discovery. Okay. I know this name. I have to research it. I didn't research this name yet. It's Frederick Gallatin. And I know his name. I don't remember what he's famous for. He's not the inventor of the Gatling gun, but he did something. So this, they had a special binder made for. When you see something like this that's rebound, they made this to protect this. There's a lot of words to describe that you can use for this. This is printed wrappers, a pamphlet. It's, other words could be used, but printed wrappers or a pamphlet. It gives you the whole story about how the ship was converted and what it was. It was not a high number of copies of this were published, and based on my research, the realistic fair market value, and again, that's always the price I put in my book for my own edification as to where the book is in the market. I am not just a wholesaler, I am a horse sailor, but I have to know what I'm doing, in order to do that. Fun stuff. Okay, here's another one. And what is interesting about that is I need to do some research, okay? When you look this book up,
Steve-O, let's go to break.
oh, yeah, sorry, but I can't look at myself in the clock. We'll go to break. Hey, I got a good idea, Captain. Let's go to break. Thanks.
Battles aren't won solely on the field. That's a common misconception. Battles are won within, over enemies of fear, enemies of doubt. In that place where promises are kept. Promises to oneself. Promises to one's community. Promises to one's country. In the heart of every Marine, you'll find a promise. A promise kept. A promise.
Forget about it. Don't worry.
Today, my new dad and I shot off a rocket in the park.
Today, my new son and I failed to shoot off a rocket.
He knew exactly what to do.
I had no clue what I was doing.
We set up the rocket.
Hit ignition. And then nothing. Sometimes I laugh when I'm frustrated.
Nowhere, the rocket launched into the air.
It did get into the air.
I've never seen anything fly so high.
And then crashed into a kite. And then
Never forget that day.
forget that day, even if I tried.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You have some.
It took me a long time to be able to say Chandler has cancer because that is such a scary word. St. Jude takes care of absolutely everything. And knowing that we don't have to pay for all of the medical expenses, that's huge.
St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude is uniquely positioned to advance the cures of pediatric cancer, I think better than any other institution in the world. The contributions make a big difference.
Donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you. We have the resources and we have the focus. And so if St. Jude doesn't do it, who will?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
My vehicle was sent 6 feet in the air in a ball of fire. I thought I was going to die.
It ripped my arm off. It broke my right femur.
I took such a hard blow to the head that my retina was torn apart.
I'm Trace Atkins. I want to tell you about these true American heroes and how you can show your thanks by helping them through Wounded Warrior Project.
They've reached out to us as a family, and they never forgot about us.
The job of helping thousands of our wounded warriors rebuild their lives is massive and growing every day. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Many of these service members suffer traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder.
They helped me basically put my life back together.
If it wasn't for Wounded Warrior Project, I would be a statistic right now. I would have been one of those soldiers who came home and committed suicide.
Gift today of $19 a month can help us provide the programs and services desperately needed by our wounded service members. Call or go online with a pledge and you'll receive this Wounded Warrior Project blanket. Make that call now.
Shit.
I wonder.
Where's my clipboard? What the hell did I do with it?
Tell me.
Welcome to Bucks on the Bookshelf with your host, Steve the Bookman Eisenstein. Steve the Bookman Eisenstein has been involved in buying, selling, and appraisals of rare books since 1968. This show has been designed with making money for the listeners in mind. More people know the value of coins, stamps, objects of art, and collectibles they do not own than the values of the books in their home library shelves. Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Welcome back, my fellow rare bookians. This has been kind of fun so far today. It's very different kind of being on radio and knowing that I'm also on camera. Not a new experience, but a new experience in a while. It's been a while since I've been on camera. I think I got to get a haircut, but we'll do that next week. Well, I can't shave until the thing heals. Okay, so let's go back to a couple of fun things. I'm trying to give you an idea here as to what goes through our minds as we're pricing things. Condition is everything. When you find things like this, okay, let me know if I'm not giving good imagery, Captain Hook. This is just a basic...
That's a good angle there now.
Okay.
Yeah. If you put up something that's white, it kind of gets blown out. Yeah.
How old do you think this is?
Just guessing, maybe 30 years.
Yeah, a lot more. This was published in 1898. Now, by its nature, it was very fragile. In addition to the nature, it's the subject matter also. You've got something that's a desirable subject matter that is in a fragile binding. This is called A Tragedy of the Homecoming, being a true tale of Company I in the 2nd Massachusetts Regiment. We have broadsides with the regimental rousters that if I'm putting my hand up here, it'll be like as big as that poster above there, if you can gauge the size, if not bigger. When you start talking about, I've mentioned this for years and years, regimental histories, things out of, the Spanish-American Civil War, whatever war it might be, when you're talking about the history of a fighting company, it's very desirable material, kind of like A-list in the ephemeral end of it. The fact that this is 1898 and it's in, just about as new, almost unread condition, is what supports the price of about $125 on it. We have had other similar, the history of this unit, that unit, from this collection, where we've gotten anywhere from about $75 to $125 for them. Now, one of the things that I've talked about especially about the estate on the beach, Len was a phenomenal historian. Len took copious notes. Now, what's so special about this book? Several things. This was the description of it. When he bought this, he paid $250 for it. Just because you pay $250 for it does not mean it's guaranteed to go up. Because is there a date on this? No. But I would tell you he had to have bought this 20, 25 years ago. As we all know, some books go up, some books go down. This had an original binder to hold it in. This originally is published in printed wrappers, okay? Decorative printed wrappers, sewn bound. You can see where the stitching is. Now, this is from the Philippines, which explains the Oriental languaging here. But what makes this book worth a lot more, I have actually, in all honesty, I have not found the price for this yet. Nobody has a copy. I have found, I'm not saying it's not out there. Yeah, everywhere I looked, it didn't exist. And why? Because this book is illustrated. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. This book is illustrated with 6 original photographs. These are not printed images. These are photographic images. I have got to find out who the photographer was, which could add, but chances are, if it was a famous photographer, it would be indicated and we would know it already. But if the book was worth $250, then I can't picture this being a book that went down in value. We'll keep you posted on it. We go all over the place in this wonderful world of rare books. You never know what you're going to find. I've talked about this subject matter, but at least we don't find it often. But I'm sure if you go to the golf clubs in your area, you'll find it if you're looking for it. Golf club architecture, histories of golf clubs. We've talked about this many times on the show. Did I look this one up? No, I didn't look this one up. Or did I? No, I didn't look this one up yet. This was published in 1929. Nice year for golf. Not that it didn't go on for 200 years before that. It's beautifully illustrated, and I would kind of make a PBI, a price by intuitive bet, that this book's got to clock out around $200 to $300. What do we always say in this trade? Never judge a book by its cover, especially when the covers are detached. Here's an indicator. There's some Hebrew writing on the back. What is it? I was thoroughly enjoyed, stunned. I don't want to use the word stun. This wasn't a stunner. But I was thoroughly enthralled when I looked this up. So obviously we got to start at the other side. Wait a minute, let me get this in the right direction. Yeah, here we go. This is actually, what year was it? Give me a second so we're all on the same page. I want to say 1920s. I'm not going to hunt too hard for the year. But what this is a periodical related to Judaism. People like Arthur Schick and other people have contributed to it. This is 4 of the 8 volumes that were published. I don't think we're going to find the other 4 volumes, but with a magazine like this, after you do some research and you see that the covers are bound in, and in actuality, this would not be too hard to disbind and get back into original condition. You're looking at a magazine that somewhere is in the neighborhood of about $100 to $125 an issue. You never know what you're going to find, and you never know when you find it if you're going to be able to research it, which is even funnier sometimes. One of the other things that we should never take for granted is in this book. It's an example of something. Well, let's start out with this is the book. He was a Rough Rider, not Teddy, and he was also named Theodore, but it wasn't Teddy. But what interests me about this book, besides it's a $60 book as it is, but what could change that is this one of the famous Huntingtons of the Huntington Library and Huntington fame? Is that one of her or his signature, and who was Mrs. Dunning? Chances are they're probably related to the book because I'm looking at this a little closer, okay? Now, I just noticed this. Again, I haven't spent a lot of time. Pencil notes. Yeah, I know, it's in rough shape. Died before presentation. So this has got to have something to do with the book. Okay. So what's the first thing we do when we get in a book and we see a signature that doesn't match up to anything on the title page? We try to go into the index of the book and see if that name is there. But unfortunately, this book doesn't have an index. So what we've been doing over the last, hour and a half or so is giving you an idea of how your thought process goes when you are trying to evaluate your books. The easiest way to do it is if you're new and you're, not going to be a long-time bookseller, call the show. Guys, 888-575-4394 is the number. We love to answer people's questions if you got them. So what else is going on with us? Well, later today, I am going to go out this afternoon and I am going to go into the parking spot where our 2009 Dodge Caravan bookmobile with 109,000 miles is. I'm going to take out everything that's valuable in the car because I usually have a set of tools in a car and all kinds of other stuff. And then I'm going to make another phone call, and then the tow truck is going to come to tow it away. And then what kind of car are we going to go shopping for? I don't know, but it's got to be a bookmobile. So we'll see what happens. I'm kind of a Mopar guy because that's the engines that I used to work on when I was affordable. I'm able to afford working on engines on a race car. You know how that goes, Captain Hook. So that's the nitty-gritty on that. We're going to find out what our next bookmobile is going to be and go from there. There are no fairs coming up for us in the near future. I know there's quite a few shows going on right now. I kind of miss it, but I don't miss it. If you've never done book fairs, whether you've been whether you're going to be a seller or just a fair goer, if you have never done a book fair before, I highly recommend it. Of all the learning experiences that you can expose yourself to, Rare Book School, cabs, seminars by different people in different places, videos, all of that stuff. I completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, okay, a book fair. Thank you very much. I'm too focused on the camera. A book fair is the place to go. There is no better learning experience under one roof than going to an antiquarian book fair, whether you are going as a patron or whether you're going as a dealer. You will meet people. You will wind up with all kinds of catalogs and things for future reference, but more so, you will add people to your client list. If the fair has 60 or 100 exhibitors, at the minimum, you're going to be walking out with 60 to 100 business cards from those people. As you are walking around the fair and meeting people in booths, you will also be talking to them. And if you're smart. You'll engage in conversations that kind of lead you to say to them, if you collect, we are a dealer, here's my card, and can I have your card? Exchange the information. We'll be back with more information after these.
Our military, that when you go to serve your country, when you give your kids a kiss goodbye and you do not come home, we are going to give them a mortgage-free home.
There are over 7,000 service members who were killed protecting our country since 9/11. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is now delivering mortgage-free homes for those Gold Star families.
I am Nancy Gass, the wife of Staff Sergeant Jerry Gass Jr. My husband was 33 when he died in the line of duty in Afghanistan. The day those two officers arrived, and my door was the worst day of my life.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is now delivering mortgage-free homes to over 1,000 Gold Star families with young children who are waiting for a home. I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their effort.
Please call 1-844-BRAVEST or go to tunneltotowers.org.
Have you forgotten?
You shop at garage sales, estate sales, auctions, thrift shops, or do you just have a few old books lying around the house? You want to know what your books are worth? Then listen to Books on the Bookshelf with Steve, the bookman Eisenstein, live every Saturday right here on WDD.
Hang up on it.
Find out if you have a treasure.
Hi, folks. I'm Roger from Roger's Gotcha Motoring. If you need a local auto repair shop, Roger's Gotcha Motoring will take care of all of your automotive repair needs. If you need something as simple as an oil change or as complex as an engine overhaul, I have the latest in technology and the knowledge to get the job done right. We've been servicing Pinellas County since 1994 and are conveniently located at 3700 5th Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you need service, call now at 727-327-1830 or visit my website, www.rogersgotchamotoring.com, or like my Facebook page at Rogers Gotcha Motoring for a complete list of all of our services. So come on over to Rogers, that's me, and get your car service today. And don't forget to shop and support local business. Call now to book your appointment at 727-327-1830. That's 727-327-1830. Swing on by.
Que Pasta Mexican Cantina is where friends and neighbors come to connect, share, and celebrate one another in a festive, casual atmosphere. Offering rich, robust flavors of authentic Mexican cuisine, we use only the freshest, finest ingredients. We chop and dice, season and blend, and then cook everything we serve to perfection. One thing that makes Mexican food even better is one of our delicious Best of the Bay margaritas. Our signature series of margarita flavors range from our sweet and fruity mango and strawberry to our hot and juicy jalapeno margarita. Having a busy meeting or getting together and looking for Mexican food? Try our Fast Facts form. It's an easy, fast way to order your favorite Mexican food. We have special platters and layouts for any occasion. The form is super easy to fill out. Fax, email, or just call it in. Whether it's here in the restaurant, in your home or office, at Que Pasta, we celebrate bringing people together. Que Pasta Mexican Cantina, 10478 Roosevelt Boulevard, North Street, in the Gateway Shopping Center, 727-330-3663 in St. Petersburg.
And you're listening to WGBFradio.com.
I wonder who.
Welcome to Bucks on the Bookshelf with your host, Steve the Bookman Eisenstein. Steve the Bookman Eisenstein has been involved in buying, selling, and appraisals of rare books since 1968. This show has been designed with making money for the listeners in mind. More people know the value of coins, stamps, objects of art, and collectibles they do not own than the values of the books in their home library shelves. Now, here's Steve the Bookman Eisenstein.
Welcome back, my fellow book lovers. We are in our final segment of the show today. I want to thank you all for joining us. I would love you all to give us a phone call or 7 or 10. 888-575-4394 is the number. 888-575-4394. One of the things that we often talk about on the show, and today I'm going to talk about it again because today we're going to do it visually, which is interesting. I haven't done it in a while. All kinds of reference books are available to you, and we have talked about this many times. So let me show you what is always sitting right over here. I'm not going to move the camera because I'll screw everything up, but this is the book that I have always talked about as being the best book for the buck if you're on a budget. And this one is kind of special. Why? Because it has a letter from Patricia and Alan Ahern in it, written to an editor whose library we purchased a long time ago. So what is it that makes this book so special? I won't even call it that. It's not so special. It's what it offers for the money. Find the 1998 to 2000 copy a few years above that. The prices you're not using. But all the other information in that book is what you want. By example, so many times we have talked about my favorite, and understand this, when I talk about The Great Gatsby, it's not that I'm fascinated with the book. It's not that I'm fascinated with the author. It's not that I'm fascinated with the storyline because I never saw the movie and I never read the book. But as a rare bookie, it is one of the most fantastic books to use to teach. Why? Well, if you look in the bottom corner here, you're going to see the beginning of the F. Scott Fitzgerald's description. And then it carries over to the next page. That's describing what you have to look for, all the points in that book that you're looking for. A speed read of it, New York, 1925, first state includes the following differences. On page 60, line 16, Chatter versus Echolea. Page 119, line 22, Northern versus Southern. Page 205, line 9 and 10, Sick and Tired versus Sick and Tired. Page 211, lines 7 and 8, Union Street Station versus Union Station. Scribner's seal on the copyright page. First state of dust wrapper. On the back blurb of the dust jacket, line 14 is a lowercase j in J. Gatsby's, which is hand corrected in ink in most copies or overstamped with a capital J. Back then, 25 grand. Second stated dust wrapper has black burb line 14 corrected to uppercase J in J. Gatsby, 15 grand. London edition at that time, 5 grand. LEC, 150. But it gives you the points of that book and thousands of others. Okay, in the beginning of the book, it gives you how to use the guide. It gives you a short version of how to identify certain publishers, and it gives you a glossary, and it gives you a bibliography. If you want to set an unrealistic goal for yourself, try and have all the books in that bibliography. Okay, another one type of book that's very important. I have one, but I can't reach back there right now. ABCs of Book Collecting by John Carter or John Berger, or I think John Carter or Edward Berger, I think is his name. This is one of the most popular ones. Let me take the glare. I don't know if I can. No, too complicated to get the glare out of this, but there we go. That's the title. First edition's A Guide to Identification. This is the third edition by Zempel. There are many other books like this. This book, any reference book you buy, will inevitably pay for itself. Now, there's tons, thousands, pick a number, a Googleplex. There's all kinds of books on book collecting. This one I show you just for fun. People collect book plates. This is a book on erotic book plates. A book plate can add value to a book, especially if it's one with provenance, a famous person's book plate, or made by a famous artist. This one is a very interesting book. I don't even know if they publish it anymore. But this book and about 4 other volumes on the shelf behind me, it is called The Antique Map Market Price Records. And it's not just price records. Yeah, like any other old price guide, it's out of date. But the information in this book, wow. Find the name of the map. It's a very easy, well, it's not easy. It's easy to use once you learn it. You got the maps by map. You got the map maker's name. Okay, so for example, Hardesty's map of British Columbia, 1884, 13 by 20 inches, published in color, and it gives you various price ranges, actually in pounds and dollars. Gray's new map of Texas, etc., etc. And it also, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's some atlas references in here. Indispensable reference. In the old days, pre-computer, should I say, as defined by old days, we strive to have a great set of reference books. Where we got a little crazy was we strive to have a great set of reference books in the car too. So if you start, if you're traveling around in rural areas and you're actually out book hunting and you're just spoiled by computers, sometimes you're going to be in an area where there's no Wi-Fi. You should have some kind of traveling reference with you if you are out there hunting and there's the possibility you won't get Wi-Fi. That's just food for thought. There's so many other kinds of reference books that, we could do shows and shows after about them. Another reference book that I've mentioned with a great deal of frequency on this show, we would give up breakfast, lunch, dinner, and occasional drinks to be able to have the $125 up to $165 as it got more expensive to have these books. I, at one time, had the complete run from 1896 up until the mid-90s. This I could never part with, just because. And you want to see something funny? I've referenced this joke many times over the years, but now you're going to see it. This is the 1896 edition of American Book Prices Current. In it, it has a statement of this volume of American Book Prices Current. Only 600 copies have been printed from type at the University Press, and the type has been distributed. 1896. This one is 1897. Also, 600 copies. What I was trying to bring out, what? I think here we go. But as time went on, 500 copies. And there's an old joke about that, especially, I guess it fits back then too. Why did they only print 500 copies of a book? Because they didn't think they could sell 501. But think about it. When when we were going after American Book Prices Current, I'm going to have to find out how many of them they actually printed. That's an interesting thought. How many of us could afford them? Go back to the 1890s, and if you think about it, 1898, they only thought there's about 500 people in the world that would want this particular book. And I'm pretty sure some of them were librarians, to say the least. I am looking at 55. I'm sorry to keep leaning down this way, but in order to set this up with proper camera angles, the clock down here is just out of my focus. I don't wear glasses to read, so it's a little too far for me. But it's 11:55, and we got about 2.5 minutes left. Next week, we are going to have, if everything goes according to plan, although, sometimes plans don't happen, Fran Miller from Barron Estate Sales will be my guest. Fran has run estate sales in the Miami area for decades. She came in it's kind of interesting, chronology. She came in just as the older crowd of the ones that were older than her and more established than her in the beginning started to retire. So she came in at the perfect time, had the perfect personality and abilities to, do what she's done. And she's, without a doubt, one of the leading, if not the top runner of the better estate sales in the Miami area. If it weren't for Fran, we wouldn't have gotten the medical books. Thank you always, Fran. And Fran did indirectly, very indirectly in a way, brought us the warehouses that I'm no longer dealing with, but I'm going to try and maintain politeness. My anger, I cannot describe my anger in this because I saw it coming and I let it happen. What can I tell you? Sometimes when Mickey Dane walked up to me years and years ago and said, "You're an old soul," I didn't realize that, I don't know, there's sometimes I have this ability to see things. I'm not trying to sound like I see dead people, but I was spot on. I was spot on. I said, something happened. It made me think I'm going to get screwed on this 2 weeks ago. Didn't happen the way I thought it did, but at the time I did, but it did happen the way I thought it did. Anyway, amen to everybody. We're all happy at the end. These things happen. I'm just kind of annoyed. Oh, yeah, and happy belated birthday, Captain Hook. We love you, buddy. Thank you for helping me become a radio personality. I love you for it, man. Okay, so enough of this mushy-gushy stuff. Oh, yeah, how can I not forget that? June 5th is Edie's birthday. I'm not sure what we're doing yet, but GTFOH. Out of here. The last letters. Get the and pick out what you think the F means. Oh, as long as we're together, it don't matter. Captain Hook, thanks, man. Another great show. It's 58, so happy book sales and buys to you. Till we meet again. Ciao for now. Thank you. Thanks, Captain Hook. I love you, buddy.